downs. You mentioned you were in the car industry before your spectacular transition to this one. And of course, the car industry met a very long and painful death in Australia. And through that time, we were often hearing about government policies that were discouraging the car makers from staying, incentives in other countries to put manufacturing in those countries. And I'm interested in the fact that you're not really talking about particular incentives other than funding gaps and things and trying to improve the skills pool today. But I'd be interested to know what the competitive field is in other countries who are trying to also attract people into these industries and develop them. Have we sort of reached a stage where we don't have sort of massive national schemes now and tax subsidies to attract and keep these businesses? And is it just sort of fair game, or is there something that we should be thinking of beyond those areas that you're talking about?
Thanks, Laura. I think for me, we're in a unique point in history. The world is decarbonising. I don't think that's a question anymore. I think it's actually happening. And so, and Australia is in a unique position because we have the minerals here that other countries don't have. And again, the supply chains for the electric vehicle and the lithium-ion storage batteries that are key for renewable energy are being formed now. They're not being formed in 20 years' time, and they weren't being formed 20 years ago. It's now. And so to me, that's why I think it's a unique opportunity. I do think the private sector and government need to work together. I don't think that incentives are the required, because most business people will see the exponential growth that's going to happen over the next period of time in those minerals. And moving up the value chain is important for job creation, but it's also important in terms of the economics that can be yielded with that. And so that's why, from my perspective, the time to act on that is now. And we start by looking at our own emission strategies, just like the rest of the world has done. Europe has already put in emission standards. The US has already done that. Parts of Asia have done that. So my view is that we should be at the forefront of setting the pace from a move towards renewable energy, and transportation is one of those aspects.
Next question is Ben Westcott.
Hello, Ben Westcott from Bloomberg. Thank you so much for your speech today. Just on electric vehicles, Tesla's been criticised for its close relationship with China, securing advantages that other car makers haven't been able to get, and Elon Musk engaging closely with Chinese officials. Are you worried about this leading to a blowback for the Tesla in the US, which is currently trying to dissuade American companies from having those close ties to China? And are you still considering building more factories in China?
So we're building factories around the world. So we have we've just opened a factory in Berlin. We've opened another one in Texas. We've also obviously got our original factory in Fremont. We have another factory that produces batteries in Nevada. And we have a solar factory up in Buffalo in New York, as well as our China factory. So our view is the world is going to electric vehicles and to batteries that are lithium-ion based, and we need to be in all of the major markets around the world. Producing vehicles on continents is important because, again, when you're setting a supply chain for the long term, you want those the miles that those cars travel before, or the kilometres those miles travel before someone actually owns it, to be the shortest possible, and that includes shipping and sea freight, because again, all of those processes add to CO2 emissions. So from our perspective, adding manufacturing into different continents, and we've recently spoken about adding more factories over the course of the next decade, because our ambition is to actually produce 20 million vehicles by 2030. So as a reminder, we produced just under 1 million vehicles last year. So that exponential ramp is what I'm talking about, because it's not just us, the rest of the industry is also moving at a rapid pace to actually produce vehicles, and the supply chain needs to respond.
So you aren't concerned about Tesla being caught up in strategic competition between the US and China at this stage?
As I said, for me, markets around the world are really important, and having manufacturing capability on each of the continents is important.
Thank you.
Robyn, just in case anyone's watching today and they think, I'm going to grab an electric car, and they jump online, can you explain in layperson's terms why they won't be able to get one for love or money?
Well, that's called the law of supply and demand. So the reality is there is a surge of demand around the world. We are ramping factories as quickly as possible. We have a new factory in Texas, in Austin, that's just coming online and starting to ramp, as well as one in Berlin that will add a lot of capacity over the next several months. But the reality is there is a waiting line. I'm sorry.